What started as a simple shopping trip to Dollar Tree turned into a nightmare that still haunts me today. These are real stories from people who experienced terror in the most ordinary places. You won't believe what happened next. This terrifying incident occurred back in 2017, during one of the most vulnerable times of my life. I was 7 months pregnant with my daughter, living with my aunt who had become my lifeline when I had nowhere else to turn. She was more than family, she was the mother figure I'd always needed. My aunt rarely allowed me to do much because of my pregnancy, but when she fell ill with a fever, I had no choice. I needed to get some snacks for my cravings, so I assured her I'd be fine and headed to the Dollar Tree about 3 blocks from our home. Inside the store, I was searching for chips on the top shelf when an elderly woman appeared behind me. "Let me help you," she said with what seemed like a caring smile. I stepped aside gratefully, and she handed me the chips. That simple gesture started a conversation I wish had never happened. She asked about my husband. When I told her I didn't have one, her expression changed subtly. "Where's the father?" I explained he wasn't involved. Her eyebrows furrowed with concern, or so I thought. "You shouldn't wander around alone in this condition," she said, her eyes darting around the store nervously. What disturbed me most was how she followed me through every aisle, asking increasingly personal questions. Where were my parents? How long had I been with my aunt? I answered, not realizing the massive mistake I was making. At the time, I believed she was just a concerned older woman. Then things took a dark turn. She leaned toward me and said, "If I were your aunt, I would take way better care of you." She began criticizing my aunt, suggesting I was neglected. My patience was wearing thin, but she wouldn't take the hint. Out of nowhere, she asked, "Why don't you come with me? I have this big farmhouse on the outskirts. Trust me, you and your baby will have the best life." I was stunned. This stranger had just invited me to leave with her as casually as discussing the weather. I tried to leave, but she grabbed my shopping cart. "Let's go to your place first so you can get your things. I'll take you to my farmhouse." I pulled away forcefully and told her firmly I wasn't interested and to leave me alone. Her face transformed completely. The friendly mask dropped, revealing something sinister underneath. She looked me dead in the eyes with a chilling grin and said, "But what if something happens to you? Your aunt isn't with you now. Life is very uncertain, you know." That threat sent ice through my veins. I called her a freak and threatened to call the police, then walked away as quickly as I could. When I looked back, she had vanished. After checking out, a store employee helped me carry my bags to the car. But standing alone in that empty parking lot, panic hit me differently. I desperately needed to use the restroom, and being pregnant, there was no way I could drive home holding it. The public restrooms inside meant risking another encounter with that woman, so I headed to the small washroom in the parking lot instead. It was empty when I entered. I locked myself in the first stall. Then I heard the door creak open, followed by slow, deliberate footsteps. They stopped suddenly. Complete silence filled the air, thick and suffocating. Sweat dripped down my face as I stared at the stall door. Then I heard heavy breathing directly above me. I looked up slowly, following the sound. My heart nearly stopped. The old woman was standing on the toilet in the next stall, peering down at me over the partition wall. Her eyes were wide and unblinking, her face completely expressionless. No words, just that horrifying stare. "You need to come with me," she finally whispered. "I'll take good care of you and your baby." I begged her to leave us alone, even offering money. Her response made my blood run cold. "Keep your money. I want your baby." She stretched her arms toward me, trying to grab me over the partition. I screamed and bolted from the stall. Behind me, I heard her jump down and give chase. Running while 7 months pregnant was agonizing, but fear pushed me forward. Her maniacal laughter echoed behind me. "Come here. I want your baby. I would take good care of you too," she shrieked. I reached my car and fumbled with the door. Her hand shot between the door and frame as I tried to close it. I slammed it hard, hearing bones crack as her wrist broke. Her scream was piercing, but I didn't stop. I drove away at full speed while she continued yelling, "This is not the end. Just remember that." My aunt called the police immediately when I got home. They searched but never found the woman. However, a week later, I saw something in the newspaper that made everything worse. A pregnant woman in her late 20s had gone missing after shopping at the same Dollar Tree. She was never found. Neither was her baby. I'm absolutely convinced that old woman had everything to do with that disappearance. Several years ago, I worked at Dollar Tree as a cashier for about 6 months. After just a few months, I occasionally worked alone, which was nerve-wracking but manageable since we were constantly trying to hire more people. I usually worked night shifts until closing time at 10 p.m. in a relatively quiet area. One rainy night, I was working solo. Light rain fell intermittently, which I could see through the windows at the front of the store near the checkout lanes. After 8 p.m., customers became scarce. The rain must have kept everyone indoors. I kept busy with small organizational tasks and checking my phone. The last hour always dragged, but knowing I'd soon head home made it bearable. After 9 p.m., not a single customer had entered, which suited me fine. I always felt uneasy being the only employee when late-night customers showed up. Then around 9:15, I noticed a car entering the wet, empty parking lot. It was an older dark blue 4-door sedan, and it parked in the nearest space to the entrance. A heavy-set man emerged wearing a blue raincoat and a gray and red baseball cap. He walked inside and disappeared down one of the aisles. I remained at my register, glancing at my phone occasionally. A few minutes later, I observed him wandering toward the front, seemingly browsing without any items in hand. He slowly approached the entrance area where I stood. Our eyes met briefly. I smiled politely and said hello. He simply looked away without responding and slowly exited the store. I watched him return to his vehicle and drive off. By then it was approximately 9:30. I walked around ensuring everything was orderly, then decided to clean the floors so I could leave promptly at closing. Fortunately, no customers arrived while I worked. This task took until about 9:50. I returned to my lane and checked my phone repeatedly, counting down the minutes until 10 p.m. At 9:58, I noticed a car entering the parking lot. My stomach tightened when I realized it was the same vehicle, the older, distinctive dark blue sedan. The man who'd been there 30 minutes earlier had returned. But this time, he didn't park near the entrance. Instead, he pulled up directly next to my car. I had parked somewhat far away against a curb, and he positioned his vehicle on the side closest to the store, completely obscuring my car from view. This seemed extremely odd. Perhaps he dropped something during his first visit and came back for it. That's what I told myself, anyway. But he didn't exit his vehicle. He just sat there with the engine running. At exactly 10 p.m., I walked to the front doors to lock up, keeping my eyes fixed on his car. Would he get out when I approached? He didn't. I successfully locked the doors and headed to the back to clock out. When I returned to the front, hoping he'd be gone since we were obviously closed, my heart sank. The car was still there, engine still running, right next to mine. A really bad feeling washed over me. Why had he parked specifically next to my vehicle when there were dozens of closer spaces? Why had he even returned at all? My instinct screamed at me not to walk out to my car. What if he was waiting for me? I decided to stay inside and wait him out. I sat at my register, periodically glancing up to check if he'd left. He hadn't. 30 minutes passed. It was now 10:30 at night, and this stranger remained parked beside my car. I texted my best friend Brenna, who lived nearby. After explaining the situation, she immediately offered to pick me up. I told her to drive right to the front entrance. My car and the man were far away on the opposite side of the lot. About 5 minutes later, her car pulled up. I rushed out and jumped into her passenger seat, and we quickly drove away. The man didn't follow us. We went to Brenna's house, then returned to the Dollar Tree shortly afterward. The man's car was gone. She dropped me off, and I safely got into my vehicle and drove home. I still wonder what that man was planning. What would have happened if I'd walked out to my car at 10 p.m.? I'm grateful I didn't have to find out. This happened when I was about 13 years old. My parents were going through a divorce, making home life pretty miserable. We lived in a small neighborhood where making friends was difficult, so I spent most of my time sketching. I'd save money from side jobs to buy art supplies, and Dollar Tree was my favorite place because everything was cheap and affordable. The store was 3 blocks away, right next to the highway gas station. I'd ride my bike there 2 or 3 times weekly. It was a large store with massive collections of household items and much more. I usually went around 3 p.m. when very few customers were there. One afternoon, I parked my bike at the corner and entered. Long aisles packed with tall shelves stretched before me. The cashier dozed behind his desk. Maybe 2 or 3 other people were shopping. I headed to the art section, which had a sale. I picked up charcoal pencils and acrylic paints, completely absorbed in shopping. Suddenly, I heard a hiccup behind me. I turned to find a man dressed as Jack Sparrow from the Johnny Depp movies standing uncomfortably close. The aisle was narrow, leaving barely any space between us. I moved away slightly and apologized for not seeing him. "Ah, but I saw you," he replied in a slurred voice. His hiccups and the overwhelming smell of whiskey made it clear this guy was completely drunk. His pupils were dilated, and his movements were unsteady. I asked why he was dressed like that. "Just like one?" "Like Jack Sparrow," he responded, eyes widening in exaggerated shock, as if I'd insulted him deeply. "But I thought I am Jack Sparrow," he said seriously. I laughed nervously. His face darkened immediately. "Oh, you're laughing? So you don't believe me, huh?" His eyebrows furrowed in anger. "Answer your captain, you landlubber," he demanded. "You're the worst Jack Sparrow I've ever seen in my whole life," I said, turning to leave. Thankfully, he didn't follow. After browsing a while longer, I went to pay. I scanned the store, he was nowhere in sight. Relieved, I stepped outside. That's when my nightmare began. My bike wasn't where I'd parked it. My stomach dropped as spine-chilling laughter erupted from the dark parking lot, followed by the ring of a bicycle bell. There was nobody around to ask for help, but I was determined. I wasn't going home without my bike. With trembling steps, I walked into the parking lot. A few cars were scattered around, and the light overhead blinked erratically. As my eyes adjusted, I saw something that made my skin crawl. The creepy Jack Sparrow was sitting on my bike at the far end of the lot. Though I couldn't see his face clearly, I'm certain he was smiling. When he noticed me approaching, he suddenly screamed, "You need to find yourself a girl, mate." Then he pedaled toward me like a bullet, gaining speed rapidly. I screamed and ran for my life. His maniacal laughter chased me as he pursued me on my own bike. I don't know what he would have done if he caught me, but I knew it wouldn't be good. "I'm going to catch you. I'm going to catch you," he shouted repeatedly. I fled the parking lot and ran down the highway. By pure bad luck, no cars were in sight. In my panic, I ran in the opposite direction from the store. The man was now riding my bike on the highway itself, laughing even louder, clearly enjoying terrifying me. The scorching heat drained my energy. I was slowing down, exhausted. I could hear him pedaling faster, closing the distance. I felt like I'd never escape. Just as I was about to collapse in the middle of the road, I saw a large truck approaching. New hope surged through me. I waved my arms frantically in the air, screaming, "Stop! Please stop! I need help!" The truck driver noticed me and honked. I glanced back, the man had stopped pedaling. He looked at me, then at the truck, then back at me. Realizing the truck would stop and I'd be safe, his expression transformed. The evil joy vanished, replaced by burning hatred. He slowly got off my bike, then violently kicked it onto the concrete road, breaking the bell. He then ran into the woods. The truck driver picked me up along with my damaged bicycle. I was completely exhausted, drenched in sweat, gasping for air. "Please just take me home," I pleaded. Except for giving directions, I didn't speak another word. When he dropped me off, I thanked him and went straight to my room. I didn't leave the house for almost a week. Every time I heard a bicycle bell, I got goosebumps. I never told anyone about this because nobody would take it seriously. They'd assume the crazy guy in the Jack Sparrow costume was just joking around. But not a single night passes without me having nightmares about that psycho man chasing me on my bike in that costume. When I was 16, I got a job at my local supermarket. It was decent work in a nice part of town, so customers were mostly seniors and wealthy families. There were occasional incidents, disgruntled customers or shoplifting, but nothing too serious. I worked there for almost 3 years, right up until I turned 18. Right up until June 24, 2008. That night, I was working an 8-hour shift until 11 p.m. The first few hours went smoothly, but around 6 p.m., it started raining. This wasn't a gentle drizzle but an outright downpour. During my meal break, I realized I'd left my wallet in my car. Instead of grabbing an umbrella from the lost and found, I decided to make a run for it. Big mistake. It was only a 10-second sprint from the front doors, but by the time I got back inside, I was thoroughly soaked. I bought a snack and headed upstairs to dry off. About half an hour later, I returned downstairs, still damp. I stepped through the break room door and looked around. The store was almost empty. I walked toward customer service, spotting only 1 or 2 customers. I was surprised to see so few people at 7:30, but figured most didn't want to venture out in the rain. I stepped into the checkout stand and started chatting with my coworker Maria. We discussed her kids and helped occasional soggy customers. Most had realized they were out of something essential like milk or toilet paper. The lights flickered occasionally, probably from the storm. I could hear distant rumbling. "I'll refill the shelves tomorrow," I said, walking to the shopping racks. I looked outside at some distance from the store and saw 2 dogs eating from a knocked-over dumpster. There was a large bush area behind them, and it was moving, not randomly, but in slow, jerky motions. Suddenly, both dogs turned and started growling at the bush. Just then, Maria yelled, "Joanna, come help me." I muttered what the hell, and walked over with a confused mind. Those dogs had seemingly vanished into thin air, and I was pretty sure I'd seen something emerging from that bush, but it happened so fast. By the time we restocked the aisles and returned to our seats, it was 15 minutes past closing. We called Victor, our night cleaning guy. He lived in a small garage behind the supermarket, serving as our handyman as well. He came mopping the floor near my stand and asked, "You look a little worried. Everything okay?" "No, it's nothing. I'm just tired," I replied. "Okay, I'll make it quick then." "Thanks," I said, starting to pack my things. Victor went to finish his work. He was always nice to me, we'd even dated briefly. As I stepped outside the exit to smoke, I noticed the empty highway surrounded by woods. The street lights made everything feel even more eerie. I lit my cigarette and with a flicker of lightning, I noticed 2 huge yellow eyes staring at me from the bush. The eyes blinked slowly, making my heart skip a beat. "You forgot your phone on the desk, Joanna." I turned to see Victor calling for me. Something kicked in, and I ran inside at full speed. As I slammed the door behind me, a massive bolt of lightning struck, and the lights went out. "Bloody hell, what a night," Maria said. "I'll light some candles." She lit them and placed them on stands. Victor sat near a window and lit a cigarette. Breaking the silence, I spoke, "Something is out there." "What did you say?" Maria asked. "I said something is outside. I think something ate those dogs, or I don't know." "What are you saying, Joanna?" "What dogs?" Victor questioned. "Guys, believe me. Something evil is out there. Some kind of creature. It has eyes like a cat, but they're enormous. It's probably just a cat." "You spooked yourself," Victor said dismissively. "No, Victor. I know what I saw." "Fine, I'll go check it out." "No, don't." But Victor took his mop in one hand and flashlight in the other. He went outside, and Maria followed him. Having no choice, I followed too. We came out, and I pointed to the bush. Victor poked it with the mop's end, then shined his flashlight on it. As soon as he did, my blood froze. A partial head of a cat-like creature could be seen through the foliage. The eyes watched us while its sharp, long ears sprang out like antlers. "What the hell is that?" I whispered. "Hello, kitty kitty. Come here. Are you hungry?" Maria called out. "Maria, don't get too close to it." But Maria didn't listen, she walked too close to the bush. Just then, the power came back on. The big lamp post directly above the bush flashed to life. We all became paralyzed with fear. Standing behind the bush was a huge creature, almost as large as a lion but with a very slim body and no fur, like a sphinx cat, but oddly it had hair on its face and a thin layer of fur around its neck. It had a massive drooling jaw that opened, revealing huge teeth as it licked its lips. It was a four-legged animal, but it was standing on its two hind legs like a werewolf. Victor threw the mop at it in fear and started running toward the store. I did the same. But before Maria could run, the creature flung its sharp claws into her flesh and grabbed her with its other hand. Then with one small press, it broke her body into two pieces. It was horrifying to watch, but there was no way I could have helped her. Helping her would have brought me the same fate. We got inside and closed the glass door, but I knew it wasn't enough to hold this beast from killing us. It devoured our colleague and wiped the blood off its lips with one leg, then slowly disappeared into the darkness of the woods. The police investigated Maria's death as a missing person case. Her body was never found and never will be. I just hope none of you ever come across that creature in your life. I love going to Dollar Tree. I come from a family with limited resources, and it's one of the few places where we can shop together and actually buy things. Even if we don't purchase anything, it's a wonderful family outing because the kids have fun, and we can go without the pressure of spending money we don't have. One day, my husband Thomas had just gotten a job and invited us all to grab something we wanted. The kids were thrilled. What none of us knew was that sometimes, cheap comes with a very high price. When we entered the store, our two children were extremely excited. Without giving us time to ask them to stay close, they ran to the toy section. Martin, our oldest son, bought a helicopter while Gwen grabbed a warplane. Clearly, they'd agreed beforehand to buy similar toys, which amused me. After Thomas picked out a screwdriver, I was happy I could finally buy a picture frame I'd seen a few weeks earlier. It may seem like a simple thing I could have bought earlier, but when you're struggling to put food on the table, every dollar counts. I went to get it, and there it was, the last one in the store. I was excited to imagine putting it next to my bed with a family picture I could look at every night before sleeping. I went happily to grab it, and as soon as I held it, a woman pushed me violently and pulled it from my hands. "Hey!" I saw it first. "Get your dirty, poor hands off of it," she snapped. The woman was large, stocky, and athletic. Despite wearing gym clothing, you could tell it was all brand named, and she was clearly well off. "What?" I saw it first. "How dare you push me like that?" "No, you grabbed it first, but I had seen it before. I'm not going to argue with a low-class cockroach like you. Go make your husband some lunch. First of all, treat me with respect. I'm a person just like you. Nothing gives you the right to push me around. Second, who I cook for is my business. You should thank me for even touching you in your cheap supermarket clothes. It's a miracle your children aren't in a zoo and your husband isn't the one cleaning toilets," she said with malice and a huge smile. My patience had limits. I consider myself a calm woman who tries to reach agreements, but when someone messes with my family, I explode. Furious, I slapped her, took the picture frame from her hand, turned around, and left. "Oh, and by the way, if you're so wealthy, don't come shopping at Dollar Tree," I added over my shoulder. The woman froze. Her face turned red as a tomato, and she started breathing heavily, gathering anger with every passing second. The veins in her face began bulging more prominently. This lady had gone from being a random entitled person to an enraged beast that could attack us at any moment. Disinterested in her performance, I simply joined my family and kept walking. "Wow, nice to meet you, Angela," Thomas said sarcastically. "Shut up. I would never let a resentful witch like that mess with my beautiful family." "Speaking of which, I guess the witch took it pretty hard because she left her shopping basket and walked away," Thomas observed. I turned around and confirmed it. The woman had simply vanished. She'd done quite a bit of shopping but hadn't taken anything with her. "She definitely took your slap to heart," Thomas said. "Yeah, and that's for the better. She was probably one of those rich girls nobody ever put in her place. She deserved a reality check." As we paid for our items, I looked up, and there she was, staring at us from outside, furious. She was still red, breathing heavily. At that moment, I knew something was wrong, that maybe we should prepare to confront her on the way out. I told Thomas, but when he looked up, she was gone. We walked quickly to the car without running into anyone and got in, ready to leave with our purchases. But something was wrong. The car started but couldn't move. "What?" "No, it can't be," Thomas said. "What's wrong?" "I think someone punctured the tires." Outside the car, the woman from before was furious, banging all over our vehicle. She wasn't trying to get in, she wanted to destroy the car with us inside. "How dare you put your filthy, disgusting hand on me, you piece of trash. I'll kill you and your cockroach family. Leave us alone. My children have done nothing to you." "No, no. I've had enough. I don't care that she's a woman, I'm going to stop her." Thomas got out of the car in a rage and approached her. He was about to speak, but the woman immediately electrocuted him with a taser gun and hit him in the knee with an iron pipe. When Thomas fell, she stomped on his face and rubbed her foot as if killing a cockroach. The woman had an insane, obsessive look on her face, clearly enjoying the moment. I got out of the car quickly to stop her, and with excellent reflexes, she stopped me and hit me hard in the abdomen with her pipe. As I lay on the ground, she smashed her pipe into my knee too, laughing. Thomas and I lay injured on the ground, neither of us knowing where the woman was. Luckily, she was nowhere near. We started trying to stand when suddenly I saw her again and gave a loud scream. The woman had returned with a bucket of gasoline, which she was pouring into the car with the children inside. "No! Stop!" I screamed. "You know, I never really cared for that horrible frame. You know what I hate? Families like you. Particularly the kids." I tried to crawl as fast as I could to somehow stop her. Thomas was doing it too, but he was a little further behind. When I saw her pull out a lighter, I knew all was lost. There was no way I was going to make it in time. Suddenly, a man rammed the woman, and another woman opened the car door and pulled the children out. By the time we realized it, the place was surrounded by people. There were few people in Dollar Tree that day, but the commotion was enough to alert everyone. Police arrived seconds later and arrested the lady, who was moving brutally like a wild animal. Shortly after, this woman's family offered us a huge amount of money not to press charges, but we refused. Our story became known, and many people donated money to us. Since neither of us could work, we weren't going to live luxuriously, but we'd be much more comfortable thanks to the people who learned our story. The woman not only lost her lawsuit but was disinherited by her family, who sought to disown her completely. This woman had never worked before in her life, but when she gets out of jail, she'll have to work for the first time just to survive.